Welcome to People Love Process. Today's episode is going to be another episode, that is, of over-the-shoulder vector building, an impromptu episode. And it's raw and unedited, meaning I have nothing script, nothing kind of pre-figured out. I want to point out my picture-in-picture at the bottom left as you're watching this video. Normally I use my Opal One camera, but I've had syncing issues with it. And what you're not going to see is the previous 7 minutes, because I was 7 minutes into this recording and the software that runs that camera just gave up the ghost. And it's like, I don't know. I've had syncing issues with audio in the video, so I look like one of those, growing up, I used to watch monster movies on Sunday afternoon that were from Japan, Godzilla, you name it, Johnny Sacco and his flying robot type stuff. But they were always dubbed to American, so the syncing was way off. And that's what we've seen in the video capture that I've done to show myself in the context of whatever I'm doing. So I haven't been able to figure that out. And now today, I decided to lower the resolution that I was capturing in the live cam from HD to 720, thinking, well, maybe that way it'll be easier and it'll sync. Well, obviously it didn't like that because the software crashed on me and it wouldn't let me get rid of what was on screen, which was weird. So I just had to stop and start over. This is just using my built-in FaceTime camera on this M1 iMac. So not sure if this will sync very well either, but we'll see. I'm going to leave it as is. And man, technology, sometimes I love it when it works. Once I have something set up and it works, I never touch it. And then it'll be like years later where I have to set up a new machine. Then now I have to remember how I did that last time. I don't retain that if I'm not doing it every day. So just want to explain that. So what's the theme that we're going to be doing here? This is going to be springtime. Now I had done this sketch, just a crude little sketch I drew out on my notepads. And I always liked it. I wanted to do something with it. And I figured, hey, we're moving into spring. I can now put that to use and I'll just build it out. I feel like building artwork today, not so much being super strategic. So this was my rough run. This is one that I'll scan in. And then I'll go into Photoshop. And I've included the PSD in Photoshop. And I'll clean it up as shown here. Just slightly improve the composition. I'm not going to redraw it because I kind of like the roughness of it. I kind of like the imperfect character in it. I think that's part of its charm. So I want to retain that. So this is what we're going to be building from. We'll just go transparency. I'll adjust it, in this case, to 20. I'll lock this layer and we'll build on our build layer. Now I'm going to start with his head here. And, his head's kind of his body. And I really get into mythology and especially history and it showing up in history. And I can't remember. I've been trying to rack my brain as I'm sitting here, trying to remember what they call them. But there's characters that show up like in illuminated manuscripts and in different publication contexts that go way back. And it's a body and they have human proportions, but they don't have any head. Their face is like right here on their torso. And I forget what they call them. And I've even sketched something out about that, but I thought, okay, that's a little weird. People might think that's a little strange, but I might do something with it. And this guy, his whole head is his body, which would be kind of freaky if you ever met anybody like that. So I'm going to build it here, and I like the look and feel. I like the proportions and the shapes being imperfect. So I want to build this in much the same way, just do it in vector. And I'm going to be kind of organizing this movie into at least two distinct parts. One is building it. The next one is coloring it. And there's something I'm going to be showing you there because in every file I create, let me finish building this shape and then I'll show you something really quick. So you could start with an oval, I guess, if you wanted to. I just like building these like this because this is imperfect and I think it matches the aesthetic I want. Now, what line is this? Let's see, stroke 75. I think I'm going to go down to 0.5. That'll be better. Okay, so notice my colors in this. This is my new document setup where I have these colors in my new document file. So whenever I create a new document, these are already there. This is a springboard that I can immediately jump into, and then I'll add colors as I go along. But sometimes as I was looking at this, I was thinking, man, I'd love to bring in some other colors into this. And that's when I'll use another method that I'll show you. But just to demonstrate, let's go to New, and we'll click New. You might see the new interface. I prefer the legacy one. I think the other one is just way overcomplicated. I prefer this because the profile, which means certain documents I've set up for myself. So if I click into this, see I have GS, Glitch Studios Print. This is what I use all the time, and I'll click it. This will use the new document profile that I've created that contain all these colors, and we'll do horizontal the same as this one, and we'll click OK. So we're in a new document now. Notice all these colors are preloaded, so that's why I use it that way. It just gives me immediate access to start creating. I don't have to reset up my document every time. So I just wanted to show you that, but I'm going to show you another way you can bring colors that you like. Maybe you used them in a previous project and you want to use them in a current project, and I'll kind of walk you through that. So let's go ahead and start creating on this. Speaking of artwork that is like in illuminated manuscripts or historical documents or show up at times in history, like, again, I can't remember the name. It's like their face is on their chest. It's hilarious because I did a talk one time at South by Southwest. They saw a talk I gave at a conference, and it was on drawing. And they said, hey, could you give that same talk at this conference? We think the audience would really like it. And it was called Drawing Conclusions. And it's all about drawing and the cognitive benefits of drawing. And it had a lot of science in it because I wasn't planning on putting it in the talk. My original talk didn't have that. But then as I started looking into it, there's a lot of science to it that it's how you pay attention. And I used to get in trouble all the time when it came time for parents-teacher conferences, and my teachers would always say, well, Vaughn is always drawing in the margins type thing. Well, the thing is, when I did that talk and I started researching some stuff, I found out that I'm not the only one who's ever done that. Actually, in illuminated manuscripts, there's a lot of doodles that the monks put into the margins because I guess they get tired of just translation from one language to another or making copies. You know, that's what a scribe is. It's like a human copy machine. They would actually do these doodles in the margins, and some of them are pretty, I'd say risque. You know, it's pretty crazy, some of the stuff they've done. If you ever want to see that, just Google scribes doodling in the margins, and you'll see some links, and you'll probably be able to find the exact same information I did. But it was funny. And why am I bringing this up? Well, I think every creative person has run into this at one point or another. Where did I put my... Oh, no. Where's my Pathfinder? Oh, there it is. For a while, I tried putting it on the left, but I put it back on the right. And I had used it enough on the left that I was looking on the left. So I'm just going to trim that. So why am I bringing up this doodling in the margin story? Well, because I got in trouble for it when I was growing up. or at least my teachers would view it as a problem. And, I'm a kid. I had nothing to compare it to. So I kind of viewed, well, I guess I shouldn't be doing that. And it was only until I became an adult that I realized, no, this is a valid way to pay attention. It's a valuable way for a creative person, especially somebody like nobody diagnosed me with attention deficit disorder growing up, but nobody had to convince me that I had it when I got older. I just realized it for myself. And so, okay, two-part story. So I'm taking my daughter in, me and my wife are, when she was a kid, and we took her to the doctor, and they were going to run some tests to see if she had ADHD. And I'm standing in this doctor's office. By the way, if things try to snap and you don't want it to, command you to turn off smart guides. That way you can make micro adjustments without it trying to snap. I think that looks good. And so she's getting tested to determine if she has ADHD, which I wanted to go because I didn't want them throwing Ritalin at her or some crazy drug like that. So I went along. I had, why does it do that? I don't know why. That's a bug in this. Oh my God. Click. Okay. That's okay. Astute. I'm going to keep this in my movie and I'll send it to Nick and say, hey, watch this time. Why is it every time? Not every time, but if I go here and let's say, no, I want to go to Arch by Points tool and I want to build this shape here. This is what it's supposed to do, but it kicks into the other one. Can you explain it? I'm not sure why that's still in there. That's been happening for a while. Okay, so back to the story. Boy, I'm like just all over the map. Talk about ADHD. Okay. So we have my daughter in the doctor's office. I'm holding my latte, listening to him explain. And he's talking about my daughter. Then he looks at me, turns to me, and he goes, you, for example. And he's going, you probably have ADHD. And I go, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, for example, what do you feel like when you don't have a coffee in the morning? And then he describes what I probably feel like. I'm going, how'd you know that? And he goes, because you're the age that they never diagnosed it. But he goes, and you've kind of figured out over the years what works for you to deal with it. And you don't even realize it. And I didn't. And I was kind of, okay, that's kind of making sense. And so long story short, we have a parent-teacher conference for my daughter. And the teacher is saying, Savannah spends too much time doodling in the margins, when she turns in her papers, as if it needs to be pristine and non-doodled on or whatever the reason. And I'm going, okay. And we get in the car, we're going home, and I'm in the passenger seat. My wife is driving, and I just look in the mirror and I say, hey, Savannah, she's my oldest daughter. She's an illustrator now on her own. You know how your teacher said to not doodle in the margins? Yeah. Keep doodling in the margins. And I said, she just doesn't understand it, but it's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And my daughter kind of smiles. And then my wife's looking at me like this going, you sure that's okay to tell her that? And I go, look, they said the same thing to me. It's like, I totally disagree with that now. And so just something to keep in mind. Okay, I'm going to show you a plugin that's kind of cool. Not one that I use all the time, but when actually, let me do this. I have to create a shape. I have to create the arm shape here. And I want this to flow. This style flows, is like contour continuation. We want it to flow right into his happy little cheek, like that. We'll go down to here, create the rest of the arm, like that. Then I'll adjust these Beziers. Notice these ghost handles. This is why I use plugins. Astute Graphics, Vector Scribe plugin. Worth its weight in gold because this just makes Bezier work easy. I don't have to go grab a different tool, which natively in AI expects you to. That's the part that frustrates people. They've just overcomplicated the workflow methods in Illustrator over the years. Sometimes I'll pull it away, bring it back. Okay, like that. So now we have the cheek established. It's not final shapes, but it's the final form here that's on the inside of the face. I'm going to take this, and what I want to do is I want to, actually, let's scale it up a little bit. I want it to like bump on the nose side, this side, and the side of the head. So how do you do that? Well, there is no way to do it in Illustrator. But Astute's created a tool called the Collide tool. If I go here, I have to remember where, here it is, Snap to Collision. What's this going to do? When you drag a shape with this tool, it'll snap to the edge of the other shapes. And if you have three shapes, if you position it right, it'll snap to the edge of all three shapes. Try doing this by eyeballing it. It'd take forever. And this makes it easy. Now I'm going to make sure I don't have one setting turn on. This one, wherever it snaps to the collision, add points to path at collision. I'm going to turn that off. I don't want that on. And this is how great their tools are. They always give you the ability to control what it does. And I always tell Adobe, well, will you give us controls to fine tune how it behaves? No, they never do that. And I go, why? I mean, I take it back. On the pencil tool, yes. Other tools, no. Why? Well, it might confuse a user. I'm going, that ship's already sailed. You confuse users all the time. And this is something by default you could have off, so only pros would bother even using it. They don't think that way because they don't use the software. So we're going to turn that off, and I'm going to grab this now with this tool. It's called, what's the name of it again? Snap to Collisions tool. And watch what it does. It'll detect. So you see those nodes that come up? Okay, this is telling me it can be a little bigger. So I'm going to make it just a little bigger. So just make it a little bigger. Then I'll bring it over here. Oop, you have to have the collision tool again. There we go. I'll blend it over here. Oh, there we go. Boom. Now it's hitting on all three of those sides. And that's kind of cool. I mean, to try to do that manually, it would just be so frustrating. You'd spend a long time trying to do that. So I like that. I'm going to go ahead and clone this. And we're just going to do it manually like that. I'm not going to do an offset. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And I want it like that. That looks good. Let's go ahead and finalize this. So I'll make a copy, take the body, make a copy, select these two. Actually, on the copy of this one, I'll drag this away. Select the copy of the body, intersect it to get that cheek shape. Now that I have that one done, I'll bring this one in like this. Select the body, make a copy, just so you can see I'm doing, bring it in front, select the arm, and trim it there. So that's how it will be clean. This here, I can just use the ellipse tool, Something like that. Make a copy of the cheek shape, intersect it, and done. We'll go ahead and zoom in. We'll get these eyes set up. Again, I'll make it a little squatty. Again, I don't want it perfect. And we'll make that one kind of like that. Let's go ahead and make the other, since we're focusing on the eyes. So again, I'll get this one, actually, now that I remember. I need to... We'll go here. And something like that. I always do it rough, and then I go back with the path scribe tool because it gives me the ghost handles, and I can finalize it this way. I don't try to build it that way immediately. Something like that. Select the body, make a copy, Command-C. By the way, I'm using keyboard shortcuts, so F3. Let's go ahead and delete that. I'll select something, I hit F3. Why do I do that? Because it makes a clone. There is no clone command. I use freehand for 15 years, and there's a clone command. This one, the first things I set up in Illustrator, I'm going, are you kidding me? There's no clone command in Illustrator? If you want to do this natively without having keyboard shortcuts, which you can do it if you want to that way, you have to select it. You have to go edit. You have to go copy. That copies it to the clipboard. Then you have to go back to edit, and you go paste in place or paste in front. Let's do paste in front. And then that's how you get it. So 2 commands. So what I did is I recorded an action where I did just that and applied that to the F3 key. So all I have to do, I don't have to go up to the pull down menus, nothing. I can select this and just go F3. Then I can select this, knowing I have both of those shapes, and go intersect. And it just makes life go faster. So if you haven't set up keyboard shortcuts, just watch my movie, Creating with Keyboard Shortcuts, and save yourself a lot of time. Whatever is a routine method you do a lot is a great candidate for a keyboard shortcut. Let's build his little arm here. I'm not going to... I think what I'm going to do is cheat. I don't want to build all these digits right now because that might be something. I'm guessing I'm probably going to do a time lapse for some of this building if this is too long. Oh, I forgot to set my timer. I was going to do that this time. Oh, well. We'll go over here. Let's just get this arm worked out. So you can see how these ghost handles really help speed up the process. It's so much faster not having to change your tool. Otherwise, you have to go up here to the anchor point tool, and then you can get access to the handles. It's just a train wreck the way they've implemented some of these things. And it makes so much more sense not having to do that. So let's go ahead. I mean, you can also go to, well, the anchor point tool is the one I forget what version it happened, but it didn't always do that. You couldn't always, like if we have a square shape over here, on this anchor point tool, this is where you can grab a path and distort it. And once you click on an anchor, you can withdraw those or retract those handles like that. Or you can grab a handle like that and it will give you the 2 handles. But the easiest way without distorting a corner, unless you're purposefully doing it, is you just grab a path and you twist it or move it or nudge it, and then you can grab a handle on corresponding ends and create what you want. That tool didn't used to do that. And I forget exactly when that got implemented, but it got implemented because of Astute's Path Scribe tool, Vector Scribe plugin. So they basically just ripped it. Adobe has been ripping off Astute for the last 8 years. It's really kind of annoying. They've tried to buy Astute 2 times, and instead of, going, okay, they shouldn't be ripping off a developer who uses Adobe's API to develop for their software. But they've done that from day one, so that's that. Let's go ahead and select these two, get the inner part of the happy little cheek. Take this, clone it, take the arm, trim off the arm like that. Okay, now we're going to do this. This is pretty close. It looks close. It might be a little big, but we'll try it. We'll go over here. We'll go to the snap to collision tool. And by the way, you can put these, I think you can. I was going to say you can put these Astute graphic plugins wherever you want in the tool panel. And I put it here because this is what I rarely click into to access anything. So again, grab it with that tool, and it looks like it's a little too big. So we'll distort it ever so much, not a lot. Go back to that tool, and then boom, there we go. Oop, I think I got it. Let's try it again. Oh, now it's a little too small. Okay. Let's try it one more time. Even if you don't get it the first time, I think that this one's overlap. I'm going to cheat. I'm just going to go in here, do this, go to keyline view. Then you can see exactly where it is. And I'll just pull this until it gets into like that position. Keyline view is Command Y. I call it keyline view. I can't remember. I've always referred to it to keyline. Some people call outline. Doesn't matter. Same difference. Take this. Okay. And I'll distort it because I think that's good. Why recreate the wheel? We'll just take this one, bring it over here. Maybe we'll make it slightly different. And we'll distort it, make it a little bigger on this side. Okay. Now we can create the bridge. I think I'm going to do it right where it intersects. And this is where Smart Guides comes in. If you hover over a path, it'll tell you over your path. If you hover over an anchor, it'll tell you you're over an anchor. And wherever two paths merge and they intersect, it'll also tell you this. And this is nice to have because I'll put that there. And then I'll use this arc tool. This is one of my favorite tools now by Astute because it just makes the process go much faster. I don't like having extra anchors, so I'll remove it. You actually don't need it. Then I'll just close this into a shape. Select this. Clone it, which also in that clone command, it's actually 3 commands. Command C, Command F, and bring to front because that's the way I use it a lot. Like this, to bring this in front of the bridge shape. Then I can trim it. So I can take this and go F3. Once again, we'll fill it. It's in front, select it, and trim it. So it just makes the process go a little faster. I kind of, as I'm looking at this, I'm going, why does he look a little familiar? Well, there was a a comic strip character. I don't know if he's still around. I haven't seen him in a long time. Ziggy, I think is his name. This guy is like maybe Ziggy's colorful cousin of sorts. Um, if I remember right, I mean, it's been years and years and years since I've seen Ziggy, but I think he had a squatty little body too, now that I'm thinking about it. Like that. It's amazing as you're growing up, you don't realize how many things influenced you. And then years later, you'll notice like somebody that influenced me. I mean, just it's amazing how much as a kid, and I didn't even have a clue that it was influencing me, was an art director for RCA Records in the 50s. And the only reason he influenced me is because my dad had all of his big band albums, and his artwork on the covers is just stinking amazing. And we'll use a copy of this to trim the sides of this mouth. I just love looking at it. And the reason why I'm bringing it up now is notice how I have segments in here. I got a lot of that from Flora. Jim Flora was his name, his style. I just like that. So I started doodling in that style and drawing in that style. And I call it segmented artwork. That's kind of what this one is. And it's fun to kind of look back and figure a lot of that stuff out. The Mad Magazine was the same thing. There's a ton of stuff in that influenced me. My mom especially hated Mad Magazine. I was introduced to it from a neighborhood kid whose dad subscribed to the book volumes that had come out after so many issues. And he actually gave me a copy of Mad Magazine. And I was just, what is this? Because the kind of comic books my mom would get for us or let us get is like Richie Rich. I don't know if you know who that is, or maybe the worst would be, what's the same comic book company? They had one where Hot Stuff, which is like a little cutie devil type thing. That one my mom would let us have, but oh my God, I got this Mad Magazine and I was just like, this is cool. It's like had all this great cartoony artwork by Jim Davis and who's the guy who did Mort Drucker. Just a lot of really good, or Sergio Argana's was one of my favorites. He doodled in the margins of Mad Magazine. So I think that kind of influenced me to, hey, he doodles in a publication. Why can't I do it on my homework, So I blame Mad Magazine for what the teachers didn't like. But I took that Mad Magazine home, and I knew my mom would not approve of this at all. So I hid it, but apparently I didn't hide it too well because she found it. And she goes, what's this garbage? And she threw it away. So what did I do? Next day, drove my bike down to the drugstore and bought another copy and just made sure I hid it really well. It's funny because I tell my mom that now and she just kind of laughs. Boy, both my parents are in their 80s. My mom's not doing so hot. She has insomnia and she's just not doing that great. So thing is like I went up to visit him one time and I knock on the door and nobody's coming to the door. And I go, where are they? And I go, maybe they ran out for an errand or something. So I just sat on the steps and waited for. I totally forgot I had a key. Duh. And so I was waiting for him. And by the way, this is where it snaps. So Command U, and then that way you can do these micro adjustments, and it won't like that. Then Command U to turn it back on. And then it dawned on me. I go, maybe they're in the backyard. And I go out in the backyard. Mind you, my dad has a knee where it's bone on bone. He hobbles around. They can't do surgery. He's too old. And it's very painful for him. So what's he doing in the backyard? He's raking up leaves and he's on an incline that's pretty steep. And I'm going, Dad, what are you doing? You can't do that. And, and my mom's out there and they're both in their 80s and they're not in the greatest health. And I'm just going, and on one hand, I admire it because I'm going, wow, they don't care how old they are. They just want to get stuff done. Okay, I can appreciate that, but as a kid, you don't like seeing your parents get hurt. I'm going, Dad, one trip and you're going to break your hip and your knees are already messed up. So it's kind of hard seeing your parents get old. Okay, I'm building the teeth. Now I'll just use the shape of the mouth. Make a copy, teeth, intersect, pathfinder to trim everything nicely. Like that. Let's do his tongue. I'm not sure where we are. Oops. Oh, wrong one. Let's get the mouth shape. I think I have an extra copy of the lip. Get rid of that. Okay. So this isn't too bad. I think I'll finish him and then I'll do everything else in a time lapse just to speed up the process a little bit. The coloring won't take too long. And we'll put these nice little spots here. And one nostril. I'm going to turn off snapping. When I met with Adobe and he showed me the roadmap for what they're going to do for snapping, which looks like they finally are addressing the snapping bug. It still isn't rolled out or fixed yet, but they're going to fix it. Now I can't remember what I was going to say. He's going, well, you don't turn on alignment guides? And I go, I do if I need to use them. I don't leave them on all the time because it's highly annoying. It assumes too much. It assumes you want to snap to this. You want this to snap to that. No, just I'll decide when I want it to snap. So that's why I turn it off. And he didn't get that. He's like, I don't understand why you wouldn't want it. Because it gets in the way. If it's assuming every time you move an object, it needs to snap to another object or align with another object. So I turn it off. I only use it when needed. Okay, we got the nostrils. Let's go ahead and do this hand. I'll do this arm and finalize it. I'll save this hand with the time lapse because that's a little bit complex, but let's do this. So this is the easiest way, I think, because I get to this, then just pull this out, get here, like that, get down here. He has little Vienna sausage fingers of sorts. And this one will go right here. Then I can grab the Path Scribe tool by Astute Graphics. Astute Graphics just some of their features are just amazing. They always make fun of me because there's certain ones I use every single day, all day long, but I don't use other ones that much because I just don't have need for them, and they keep going, you need to learn how to use these other plugins. And I go, so I told them this year I would try to do a movie where I do that, just so you guys can see what they do, because you might find a lot of use for them. Like their Phantasm one's awesome for doing colors and stuff like that. I also like the name. Reminds me of the movie Phantasm growing up, like a horror flick. Okay, this stubby little hand, I think, looks pretty good. So I'll select the arm, select the hand, unite it. So it's always easier to build in pieces, in my opinion. So for example, here, we'll build all the shapes needed to create in pieces. I use the arc tool when I don't want an absolute straight line. Like this, I sketched it kind of straight, but it'd be better, I think, if it was curved. Same thing with this one. It kind of goes with the perspective of the arm. Not that any of this is realistic at all. Like that. Then we'll create, why does he have an elbow pad? Is this his skin, or is he wearing something? Yeah, these guys, this dude doesn't have clothes. It's just all, he has a unibody, unibody design. Okay. I'll take the arm, clone it, select this, go intersect. So I'm going to make 2 copies of the arm. And I'll make an extra copy of each of these shapes. So I just hit F3 to make a clone. Select the arm, select this shape, go intersect. Select the arm, select this shape, go intersect. And now with the original shape of the arm, I can trim this one. And then this one will trim here. So if I go ungroup, we got the little glove section, we got this section, we have this section, and we have this section. Like that. We'll do the same thing over here. Elbow pad. Again, oops, don't need it that much. Like that. Like that. Okay. So I'm going to make clone of this, select this, go intersect, make 2 copies of this, and make a copy of each of these. Then I can select this, select the arm, intersect, select this, select the arm, intersect, and now I can take this, and trim, take this, and trim that. So we have all those shapes. We have his little ear. I like how his ears are just nubs. Okay, like that. Clone that, trim it. So we have that nub. Create his other audio nub. They don't call them ears. That. I think those just look better, not being like just using elliptical shape to do it like that. Let's create the arm on his glasses. Some people, I won't just do a stroke and make it thicker. Then it's a monoline. I want it to have more character. And then, oops, did I grab the wrong? I did. No, I got the right one. I just want this to be rounded, not flat. Okay. There we have the arm. And then over here, do this. This is just the side bit of the arm here. I want it to break outside of the head. Then we'll round it. And then we'll trim it. Like that. We'll do his legs. And then the rest will be time lapse. It's almost like cowboy boots now that I'm looking at it. Notice none of these are perfectly straight lines. That's why I like using the arch tool. Because I used to do this all the time, but I'd use just the pen tool and it'd take longer because I'd have to adjust those Beziers as I'm going. But you can see how fast this goes. This. So I get to one point with the pen tool, then I switch to the arc tool. I think this needs to come up over the water a bit. Or the puddle. Whenever I think of puddles in the street, I think like I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, and we had hydroplane racing every summer at a place up in Seattle called Seafair. And I don't know if you ever watched hydroplane racing, but it's kind of cool. So we used to make them out of wood and pull them on the back of our bikes. And this old military guy named George that lived across the street from us. And, you know, when you're a kid, you look at somebody like that. He's ancient, you know. I don't know. He's probably 60 maybe at the time. But he would stand in his front yard with a cocktail in one hand. And then we would ride our bikes down and make a turn. And these hydroplanes we'd design and paint on our bikes would kind of swing around the back, and we tried to hit the water that would puddle up down the side of the road, and it would create a fantail of water and kind of simulate the hydroplanes. And so George would stand in his front yard, and he'd judge them. That was a 9, you know, that kind of stuff. I haven't thought about that in a long time. It's kind of interesting. Growing up, there was somebody, like, he called me over one time and he pulled out the stamp collection, and it was a really cool stamp collection. And he goes, I just wanted to show you this because somebody had broke into his house, I guess, and stole some stamps. And he thought, you know, I might I might have heard something. So I get now that I think about it, I guess I was kind of like he's trying to use me as an informant, maybe. Oops, my bad. I don't think I have turn smart guides back on. I had no clue who did it. Ugh, why does it keep doing this? It's like for some reason it. Okay, that's what it's supposed to do. Okay. So he never did figure that out, but he was always he's a cool neighbor. He didn't care if we played baseball in front of my house and a ball would go into his yard. He didn't freak out about that. And then I think he either died or went into a rest home or something. I don't know. I can't remember. And eventually somebody else moved in. Mrs. Carr was her name. Oh my gosh, that was a totally different type of neighbor. She would always get mad at us if a ball rolled into her yard. And we're not talking a real baseball. We'd play home run, we called it, with tennis balls. And she would run out and grab the ball and keep it. Well, we had plenty of balls, so we just kept playing, like whatever. And eventually we'd run out of balls because she'd have them all. And so I go over and apologize. She'd give us all the balls back. Then we started all over. started all over again. Okay, now we'll punch this through. Okay, so let me ungroup these. Okay, we have all those pieces. Okay, I'll build the water. I like how kind of squatty the water is. I don't want these to be perfect elliptical shapes or anything like that. I think what I'm going to do is put this here. Like that. Go to this one. Okay, it's a little much. Put an anchor right about here. Vector art is all about having enough anchor points to make the shape you want, but not having as my friend would say, a shitload of anchor points and make it really hard to work with. That's good. That looks good. And we'll go all the way down here. Might be able to do this with just these two. Notice how it says S, that corrects the broken. There's only two types of anchor points in Illustrator. You have smooth and you have corner. This is technically called a corner. This is called a smooth, where it transitions through the anchor point into the next segment smoothly. That's hence the name smooth. Oh, that's what I need to do. Duh. Do this like that. Then we'll use this to get this section. Select these, unite them. That looks fine. I just don't want it to be super. By the way, it's easier to pull a further away and then drag it back in if you want to work out composition. Like, I think that looks better. Might do that down here. This almost looks like it's in the wrong position. There. And then we'll go ahead and make this. And by the way, if you select these anchors, hit the S key, then you can distort it like that. That's a helpful feature in Illustrator. Again, I just don't think it was implemented very intuitively. Why they couldn't keep this all within one tool function is beyond me. So right now we're in direct select. So why can't I hold the modifier key down and then with these two selected, move it, and it will, unifyly do it from, I don't know, is that even a word? It do it consistently from each side, bringing them in. No, you have to hit the S key. Well, what's that do? It switches to the scale tool. We're not scaling, we're distorting. So I don't know. I just think it's overly complicated just to get this feature. That's all I'm saying. Okay, so we have this. I'm going to do the rest of the art here. And from this point moving forward, it'll be time lapse. So you won't see me talking because I'll be going like this on screen really fast. And so from this point, once we get down to the time lapse, I'll come back. I might say a few things and then I'll stop recording. Then I'll set up what I need to set up to do coloring, and then we'll jump into that. And we'll go from there, and I'll see you on the flip side. Okay, I have my base vector art created now. All the shapes are here. We can move into coloring. And the first thing I want to show you before I finish recording this first part is just how I establish color. I showed you the new document profile where it always has these global colors preloaded when I start a project, and I could start here, and that's usually what I do. But there's a project that will become content later on this summer, and it's based off of a trip to India, and I want to show you that because it's a fun style. It's also segmented, but I really love the colors that I used in that. And so at times, if I discover a color palette that works well, I'll save out those colors. And so, like, let's say you wanted to save these colors and add them to your own new profiles. So when you create a new document, you'd have these global colors. All you have to do is just go to the swatches option menu, go down. You can save a swatch library as an ASE format or just as a native AI file. And that will save just an empty file with all these colors loaded into it. It's kind of nice. So anytime I have a palette that I like that I might want to use later, rather than opening up a file and just copying over shapes that have those colors in it, I've done that too because I get lazy at times. I want to show you an easy way to import your color if you save it, in this case, as an ASE file. All we have to do is go to the swatches panel and go to the option menu, go down to open swatch library, and these are all the preloaded ones that you can check out that come with Illustrator. Not even sure what scientific is, so analogous colors, complementary, so on and so forth. But these are all ones you can explore. I haven't really delved into those a whole lot over the years. We're going to go down to other color library, and then this needs to point to wherever you have it saved. In this case, I have it on my desktop. It's called Nataraja Colors, based off of, once again, a trip to India and the artwork I did that I was inspired to create after that trip, where I got to go to Adobe headquarters. And really cool because I got to spend time with some engineers I've known for years. There's some of my good creative friends. Niraj is one of them. He now works on the Adobe type team. But we're going to select this, and you can see it's an ASE file, and we're going to go open. Now, this is going to pop up a window like this, and you can see if I hover over this folder, well, I don't have tooltips turned on, but it will say Nataraja Colors. If you want to get all these colors I've saved into this folder, all I have to do is just click the folder, and now all those colors are preloaded. Once I've done that, I can go ahead. These were other secondary colors that I might use for shading or whatever, but I'm just looking at the primary color palette, which was this folder. So I'm going to close this. All those colors are now loaded in here. So that's one easy way to move colors. And then you've seen me do it before where I have these swatches, and this is where Adobe phoned it in, where they took the, oh, it still frustrates me, took the idea I had where you could drag and drop swatches onto the dashboard and tile them. Nope, we're just going to rip off a script that, again, somebody else created, and they shoved it into Adobe Illustrator, and they put it right here where it's called Create Swatch Info. And I've demonstrated that in their movie. I'm not even going to get into that. But we're going to select these because now it's not this easy when I'm creating colors like this. I'll spend time in the color panel kind of mixing colors, in this case CMYK, but I've already done that. So I'm just selecting these swatches and putting them in the order that I have in my group here. So I have a light purple, darker purple, then I have shades of red where it's the base shade of red, slightly darker, and a darker one even yet. I have a nice orange to go with that red, And then I have hues that are a little darker in terms of orange. Then we get into the gold, really bright, adding some red to it, adding more red to it, adding even more red to get a subtle shades variations in the darkest. Then we go in here, and this is where we use a nice turquoise type color. Then we have a medium value of that color, a little darker, and a darker hue. Then we jump to green. We have light, and we have a dark one. Then we have blues. The lightest, getting a little darker, and the darkest. So now this is going to be the tonal family I'm going to use to color this design. I still might use some of these other colors up here, like some of the blues when I get to the water and stuff. But this is where I'll spend time coloring this out. Now, I'm going to stop recording now, and then when I come back for you, it'll be a few seconds, and I'll walk you through what I ended up doing and spend some time coloring it. But this is the part where it'll take a little bit to figure out the color balance, and I don't want to bloat this timeline for this movie that long. So we'll come back and we'll walk through that in a little bit. Okay, so it's only been a few seconds for you guys. This is where we left off. We had our base vectors built. I showed you how to load a color that you derive from another piece of artwork using the ASE format. I believe I stopped. It was almost 3 hours ago that I had stopped recording. So I didn't spend 3 hours on what I'm going to show you, by the way. It's just I kind of got sidetracked, started watching some YouTube videos, and that's how Saturdays go. So it didn't quite take 3 hours, probably an hour, 45 minutes, something like that, in between getting sidetracked and going, ooh, shiny, and kind of zoning out on YouTube when I should be focusing on this. So I want to walk you through it because there's aspects to this style. By the way, at this point, I didn't show you this, but what I did do is go to my X layer, you can see I have artwork on there. So I saved my base artwork, and I always do that because of the next thing I'm going to show you. Like, his body shape is all intact here. But I knew when I went to color it, anytime I work in this style, I might want to color sections different, not have it all one color. So I'll go in knowing which sections I'm probably going to have colored differently. And at the time, if I'm coloring it, well, the very first thing I colored, we'll just take this. And I thought maybe it'd look good to have the aqua color as his body color. But then that's when I realized I'm going to want to change the color behind these eyes here. And I want these two sides different. So with that said, let me jump to the next layer. This is what I call ready to build. So I went in on those sections. We'll just zoom in on. We need a name for this guy. I don't have a name for him. So if you come up with a name, whoever comes up with a cool name, I'll send you some stickers. So you can see I broke these into parts like this, so I can color behind that and color behind the other eye. I even have the center. Let's deselect these. You can see the center part. I want this coloring behind the nose and the eyes to be a different color, and then this one to be a different color. I don't know exactly at this point, but I knew I wanted to break them up to give me that kind of leverage. We made a few other kind of subtle changes. Like I decided it'd look good to put a little crazy band on his hat, zigzag instead of a flat color. Everything else is pretty much identical. And so the first thing I want to do is color the obvious ones, and that is the eyes. These are going to be black, no outline. These are easy. And the highlights on the eyes, like that. And then it's on these, on the glasses here, that I will use the darkest blue here, or actually we'll use this dark blue like that. And then these will be the whites of his eyes like that. And so I'll start selecting shapes and experimenting. On this one, I ended up coloring them, well, not the outline, but the fill like that. And then on this style, many times I have certain colors. I almost always color things, and the nose is one of them. Either orange or red is pretty much what I always color these when I'm working in this style. Why is that? I have no idea, but I just prefer it. So we're going to do that. Let's see, we'll color this one. I keep doing the outline. This is why, if I'm going to be coloring, I'll take my tonal family, because if I'm zoomed in, it doesn't do me any good. I'll go ahead and shrink it down and just move it into, we can go ahead and group it too. We don't have to keep it separate, and move it in here. Obviously, I'm not going to keep it there, but this allows me to see what I'm doing easier. And then with eyedropper, I can just select whatever color I think would look good, maybe blue there. I can look over at my color reference here and decide maybe I make that orange, and I don't know, maybe that's blue, or maybe it's aqua. I think blue there. Maybe we make this one kind of a aqua color like that. And then I just start experimenting with color, working out color, and we'll do the hat. We'll do the hat, because this is why I have tonal families with base color, a little darker, a little darker, a little darker. And actually, there is one difference from when I stopped recording till now, is this was only 3 steps. Base, a little dark, and a third color. I actually expanded, I changed the third color and darkened it, fourth color. So we actually did that because I'm going to select this area, and this will be dark, this will be light, and we'll make this color this kind of medium color. And then I'll go in on here, and on this one we'll probably color it that way, and I'll color this probably that color orange. So that's all I'm doing, is I'm going in and I'll experiment. Since they're segmented into different shapes, I'll just spend time coloring it one way. If I don't like it, then I try something else. And I'm trying to balance all the colors as well. That's why I kind of like this, this kind of format. On the face itself, we're going to make this that color. Then I wanted orange, or orange on this side, kind of a lighter hue on this side. We'll make the base, maybe that's the aqua color. And this middle one, we'll make this purple. We'll go over here and select purple like that. Then when we go to the cheeks, we'll make it that color. Might use a hue, maybe that one. Then go over on this side, we'll make, ooh, not red, we'll do that. And then I'll use a maybe a little more orange to it, kind of like that. And then the mouth's easy. That'll be black. And then we have all these teeth shapes, where those will be white. And the one color that isn't part of this family, it's part of my swatches, is this pink color. So we'll fill that pink, get rid of the outline. And on this guy, I thought having his ears red makes sense. And then we can go here, Maybe we do blue and we do orange for his nostrils, and then we'll make his lips a nice red. So that's all I'm doing. And as I'm working through it, if I come back to it a little later or move on to a different section, reevaluate another section, then I'll just make changes as I go along. Now, I'm not going to spend all the time doing that. I just wanted to explain that in essence. All the base colors, this is what they turned out with. We're going to turn off tonal family and turn on all base colors. And this is what we ended up with. So if we zoom in on this, you can see he's a happy little dude, a very colorful personality. Keep that in mind when you come up with a name, by the way. I kind of like that, colorful personality. We have Mr. Sun up here. He's coming out. The rain's drying up. He's walking through the last puddle of the year, and a bird is here. I just thought I should have probably added a music note. I might do that before I create images to post on social. But I really like how this came out. But the reason why, and people still ask me from time to time about the X layer, I got your exercise files. What's X mean? And I've explained that before. But the reason, just think of it as a vector junk drawer. That's the easiest way to think about it. I can turn it on. If we turn off the layer we're on, you can see I have all my base vectors saved there. I can go in and grab our original shape because I broke it up. So I'm going to copy that, and we'll turn it off. We'll go back to our base colors here, and I'm just going to paste it in place. And I don't move it out of position when I'm creating, so I can do just that. I don't have to drag it and snap it to existing shapes. Just makes it easier. Now, the reason why I'm doing this, because I'm going to do a few examples of the detailing I'm putting into this. Now, this is a goofy style, and it doesn't have to. You could go just like this, flat, and I think it looks good, but I think adding just little touches of detail kind of improve it even more. But if we take this shape, and now I'm going to clone it twice. I'm just going to hit my F3 key 2 times. Now I have 3 copies of that there. I didn't have to go to my menu. Again, watch keyboard, Creating with Keyboard Shortcuts is the name. You can Google and find it on my channel. Watch that. Anything you do on a regular basis is a great candidate for a keyboard shortcut. Now that I have this, I'm just going to position it over kind of like this, and we'll distort it upwards, kind of like that. I'll select the one underneath it, and then we'll go to minus front, like that. Why'd I do that? Because I'm going to fill this with white. Because imagine, now when it comes with a highlight, those are easy. Even if it cascades over all these different colors, it's still white. It works. When it comes to shading, it's not so easy, especially with this style, and I'm going to show you that in just a little bit. So we're going to color this maybe, let's try 30, like that. And so maybe even a little more. We'll knock it up 10% to 40. So that's how I'd create a highlight, as if the light's hitting it and it's kind of highlighting that area. Now let's do a kind of a drop shadow of the hat on the top of his head. So I'm going to go in here and select this shape. I'll just turn it to an outline like we have on his body. And then I'll just move this down how I picture the shadow hitting the top of his head, something like this. Then I'd take the shape of his body, this is why I brought it back, and I'll make a copy of that. I'll select this one, I'll go intersect. Now we got a highlight here. I just need to position it right. Now, here's the thing. Shadows, when they go over warm colors, tend to be a warm hue or a warm gray or a muted value of a warm color. If we look up here, and I'll just take this shape for a square, and I'll do this, and I'll fill this. This is a muted warm color. If I select this and I fill it with that. Doesn't look that hot, but as soon as I go to transparency, set the blend mode to multiply, and knock down the value to control the value of it, or opacity, which will control the value, to 70%, it distinctly looks a lot better. You just determine what intensity you want that value to be. I still think this is a little much. I might go to 60. Oops, make sure I do this right way, 60. And I think that looks pretty good, but it's going over the glasses. The glasses are forward facing and they're not right under the hat. So this is where I just copy it, select the glasses, and go Command B to paste behind so it puts it in the proper orientation. But this dot is on top, so I'll just copy it, select the shadow, and go paste behind, Command B. And so you get a nice little interaction with the shadow under there. So that's how I do a shadow detail. And once again, these are a majority of warm colors. Purple has red in it, so that works. When it comes to some of the colors, it makes it a little more difficult. This area is pretty easy to do. There's other areas not so easy to do, like if you go into here, you have a cool color, then you have a warm, then you have a white, then you have a purple, which is forgiving when it comes to coloring. So if we take this and I go ahead and copy it, or clone it, that is, I'm going to color this, the outline color we have, like that. And then I'm going to make a copy of it so I have two of the same shape. And then I'll reposition this to kind of think of it as this cheek is casting a shadow onto this part of his face of sorts. Then we can take this and I'll bring this to front. I can go here and just move this over just so it distinctly overlaps areas. Select this one, go minus front. And now we have this nice little sliver we can color. I'll select a copy of his head, body, all in one, unibody. Select both of these and go intersect. So now I have it isolated to only that section. Now, if I just go up here and sample the warm shading, it doesn't look that bad as it goes over red or goes over purple, but I don't like this kind of value over, this is a little muddy, and then over the teeth, I don't like it. So this is where you might want to change the value and use a different type of value. And this is the hardest part. This is what I've been trying to get across to Adobe, is that they need in their blend mode called shadow, and it would solve this. How? I don't know. I'm not a coder. I'm not an engineer, but I think they could do it. If we took this color, let's try, we'll try a gray here. So I'll go to fill. I'll select a gray. This looks better on it, but we can go into this gray. Okay, you can see we have black, we have warm. That's okay. I might even drop this down to like 7. And then on this one, let's put 25 and knock this down to 20. So it's a cool gray of sorts. And we'll click OK. And we still have it applied. And I think that looks nicer over the teeth. So it's kind of personal opinion too. You might go, oh, I still think it looks stupid over the teeth. Okay, fair enough. But that's how I handle detailing. Now, I don't want to spend, this is what I did most of the time for the hour and a half I worked on it after I stopped recording. So let's go to this. Well, we're going to go from this. Let's get rid of this square. And we're going to go to all the details. So I'm just going to zoom in on, by the way, we need a name because I keep wanting to say a name. We don't have a name. So zoom in, you can see these details, not bad, but this is all the details in place. So you can see it doesn't fundamentally change the artwork. It just makes it a little more engaging, casts some shadows where they kind of make sense under his body, on his legs, a shadow in the water because he's walking over the water. Of course, underneath the hat, in the top part of the hat, if we move up, you can see we used a little darker shading inside the area of the umbrella, worked in the little details on the bird, even gave him some feathers. And then even though the light source supposedly is creating the shadows, it has shadows. Where those come from, I don't know. It doesn't matter. That's why illustration is forgiving. You don't have to worry about reality. So this is how all of these came out, like this. And I just think that was a lot of fun. Now, the more I was looking at this, after I got to this point, I thought I was done. And I'd come back and I was going to figure out what else, if I need to do anything. And I thought, you know what? I need to adjust the composition on this design. And so I'm just going to bring this guy in. And I just thought, if I lower this, that's fine. And then I could position this guy down here, something like that. And I think this looks even better. It kind of tightens up that composition. So always take time to set something aside and come back to it later. For me, it's like, whoa, why'd I do that? That's like, wait, it's like off in space. And it's like, let's bring them together a little more. So that's all I did here. And then I thought I was done here. And a few minutes later, I'm going, oh, that'd be kind of cool. So we're going to do one more thing, and that's adding atmosphere. So let's go ahead and do that. We have these shapes over here. All we're going to do is just bring them over, slide them in position. This is going to be a background shape, kind of like this. And with all those shapes, we're first going to go unite, and then we're going to color it black. Let's find our black color. Here we go. Don't need an outline. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to Gaussian blur it. So we'll go to Effect. We'll go down to Blur. We'll go to Gaussian blur. 48 looks good. You can see how it's diffusing the edge here. So we'll click it. Now, this is just an effect applied to a vector shape. So we have to expand it. So we're going to go to Object. We're going to go Expand Appearance. It's expanded it, but it's still not ready for what we'll do next. We want to rasterize it. This is still a vector effect of sorts. So we're going to go to Object, and we're going to go down to Rasterize, which will turn it into a pixel-based image. We'll bring this up. We'll select usually a default CMYK. You want grayscale here, and we're going to use 300 ppi. If you want to do higher or lower, you can do that. And we're going to click OK with everything else remaining default. So now this is a raster-based image. Even though we created it in Illustrator, it's embedded in Illustrator. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Effect. I'm going to go down to Pixelate to color halftone. This is how you can do not real halftone. This is simulated because it's, if you create a halftone Photoshop and you compare them, this is just circles to simulate it. Where in Photoshop you get a real halftone, just like you'd see in a newspaper or a magazine. So color halftone, if you're not familiar with it, channel 1, 2, 3, 4. How many channels are in CMYK? 4. So think of this as CMYK. And we're going to put, we have 45 for each of those. And then this is how big the lines per inch you want that dot. A larger number means a finer halftone. Smaller number means it's fat and chunky halftones. We want that. So I'm going to punch in 15 here. And this is one of those features I wish they would add a preview button here, because you're just guessing. You have nothing to base it on. I've just done this enough to know 15 is probably around what I want. And so I'm going to click OK. and boom, you get a halftone. Once again, these are just dots. This is a raster image. So if you wanted this to be very, very clean, just kick up that PPI when you rasterize your image. I just did 300 and called it good. But if you wanted it a higher amount so it looks even better, just do that. That's all you have to do there. Now, once we have this, we'll go to our colors, and you can color it whatever you want. So we'll select fill. We'll color it our aqua color, and because we're using global colors, we can go to color here and adjust the tint. I want this to be tinted like that, and it's in the background. And this is now our final artwork. I think it came out really fun. I always like adding birds to illustrations like this. It's his little buddy. So if you have a name for this guy, let me know. I hope you enjoyed this content. It was kind of thrown together at the last minute because I was looking at what I was going to do, and I decided I'm going to save that for next week since I had done one pretty recently, and that is we have somebody who submitted a sketch for You Draw It, I Build It, and we'll be covering that next week. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned some new tricks here. For me, this is a fun style to work in. It was all inspired by Jim Flora, who I really admired his art before I ever knew who he was or even knew I wanted to get into this industry. So you never know where that kind of inspiration is going to come from. And that applies now even if you're plugged into the industry. So keep exploring, keep being curious. Thank you for watching, and I hope this content helps you to improve your own creative process.